The sound of the world. It's muffled, but it reaches me. The country that is waiting for me is unique in the world. Huge. 1,200,000,000 people and me arriving in a few weeks' time. India, because it's my country, awaits me with open arms. But sometimes I am choked with emotion. I think of my future and one question is ever present. A question central to this country. The question. Will I be a boy or a girl?
याद ये किसकी लाई पकड़ के याद ये किसकी लाई पकड़ के दर्द जवानी का सताए बढ़ बढ़ के शोला जो भड़के दिल मेरा धड़के शोला जो
The girls there are pretty. In Rajasthan, they say you find the most beautiful smiles in India. But one thing I pray for, this is not where I want to enter the world. In this huge country, it's actually the worst thing that can happen to a girl.
Jaisalmer, the Golden City, rises above the desert far away in the far west of India. The fortress hasn't changed since the Middle Ages, and neither has the mentality. For centuries, men have upheld a barbaric tradition. They kill their daughters. Saroj is 11 and a survivor. Her mother fought to keep her, and luckily her father agreed. But there was a price to pay for not having respected tradition. The family had to leave their village.
I didn't like living in the village. There were no girls there. Well, only one girl, i.e. me. I only had one friend. The rest were all boys.
In this society, Saroj, along with many girls, is a burden. In Rajasthan, girls don't work, they don't bring in money. They don't hand on the family name either. And above all, one day these girls must be married. And that costs a lot of money. Shampa has given birth 4 times, to Saroj, to her little brother Dushant, and also to 2 other girls, who she didn't have the strength to save. Tell us what happened to your first daughter.
I suffocated her with sand.
You did that?
My mother-in-law told me to.
She told you to? Did you try to refuse, to say no?
No.
You just did what she said.
I didn't refuse, because it's tradition. We have no choice. You have to listen. No one can refuse. I was very young. What could I do? Everyone said, she's a girl. We will kill her. That's our tradition. They told me to do it, and I did. When my second daughter was born, my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law took her. I covered my face. I didn't want to see. They put her in a box. She was naked. She didn't have any clothes. It was just after she was born. That's what they do here. They put them in a box, then cover them with earth. Then they leave them all night, and they will suffocate slowly. Next day before sunrise, they came, took the box away, and went to bury it somewhere. Then they came back. They washed their hands, their feet, and had the first meal of the day.
They carry on living, but at what price? There are the ghosts which haunt Shampa, and the guilt which eats away at Saroj. The guilt of being there when her sisters had no chance. And life which reminds her constantly of this memory, every return to the village that is painful. As the road advances, we approach the heart of the tragedy, the place where this tradition of infanticide has its roots. This village is among those which today has the greatest imbalance between men and women in the whole of India. In Pythia, we are at the ends of the world. And after school, there are only boys playing in the dusty streets. Saroj has returned, and today Shampa, her mother, takes her to the woman who saved her life 11 years ago.
Welcome to my home. Come in.
Gajendra is well known throughout Rajasthan. She was the first woman 30 years ago to have defied established order and opposed infanticide. This comfortably off woman became the role model for thousands of village women like Shampa.
Gajendra has always said that we must save the girls. She insists the girls must live. But the village women don't listen to her. She explains to me that keeping my daughter was right. Things which I didn't understand before, but which I understand now. That's because I've spent a lot of time with her. When my first daughter was born, my family were not at all happy, especially my mother-in-law. They were all thrilled at the idea of having a son. Of course, no one said to my face that they didn't want to keep my daughter. But it's because my husband stood by me that she's alive today. He supported me, took control, and said to them, no one will make trouble for my wife. The children born in this house, whatever their sex, will live. That's when my battle began. From that moment on, village women sought me out regularly. They said, my husband's family don't want to keep my daughter. You must talk to them. Come on, please come.
Thanks to Gajendra, a small revolution is taking place in these villages. Saroj, in any case, will be eternally grateful to her. But for her life that has been saved, how many more will continue to be sacrificed? It's the song of the dead which hovers over this village today. Every month they pay homage to them, and every month this is the day the men choose to get together. The panchayats are the people's government, organizations which are officially banned but which still rule the lives of hundreds of millions of Indians in rural areas. Here they hang on to power as tightly as they do to tradition.
My name is Malabhushan. I'm a Rajput warrior. I have 6 children, all boys. They are married and had 2 sons each.
Only boys, but that's just luck.
We Rajputs are Rajasthan warriors, and we believe strongly that men are dominant. If a girl studies, she won't listen to her father and mother. She will want to meet people, go out. How can you let a girl go out? If someone from the village sees her hanging about, people will come to me. We've seen your daughter hanging about with boys. Then people will point at us, and more serious, we will never be able to marry this girl.
That frightens us. If they become equal to men, they won't want to work in the house. That's why no one wants girls to be educated. They could break away from our culture. I've seen that happen often, and I've drawn on my own conclusions.
We don't keep our daughters because they cost a lot of money, especially when they get married. You need the equivalent of at least 15,000 euros for one daughter. So imagine if you had 3. The in-laws want at least 8,000 for the engagement, then 15,000 on the wedding day to accept our daughter into their family. People always talk about the daughters we kill, but they don't understand all the problems we have.
In this land, men have had the same discussions for centuries. Their traditions and customs are deeply rooted. No one here wants to talk openly about the infanticide, but these men were brought up like this by their fathers, and their values will be handed down to their sons. In 30 years, Gajendra has saved a few little girls, but she knows that the drama plays out in many houses out of sight.
See that house opposite? Well, in that house, they have killed at least 6 or 7 little girls. Officially, none of their daughters-in-law has ever given birth to a girl. Only boys are born in their house. Come, let's go. Look at that house there. A girl was born, but the mother didn't want to look after her. I told her, you'll go to prison if you get rid of your daughter. So she calmed down for a while. When she came out of hospital and back to the village, I went to see her, then went home to bed. The next morning, I found out her family had killed the baby, and my heart was full of bitterness.
Shampa's heart is full of fear. She and her daughter won't go home this evening. Shampa spoke to us without her husband's permission, and he is mad with rage. She's going to spend the night with a friend in the hope that tomorrow he will have calmed down.
I'm frightened of my husband. It's not done in our culture, in our traditions, to talk like that. My husband will yell. I don't know what he will do to me if he finds me this evening. He will drink and then go looking for me. Then he might even beat me. I don't know.
That's our life. We can never leave our husbands. If we left them, it would be a crime. They would make out we were mad. So, our whole lives, we have no choice but to follow our husbands. It doesn't matter what they do. If they're right or if they're wrong, we are forced to follow them. The men don't want anything to change. They want to preserve their position, their authority. They want to continue to decide everything. But one day, perhaps they will give consideration to our ideas. And that day will mean we are free. Then we will stop taking care of their homes. We won't do anything. And finally, they will have lost their authority and all their rights. I'm not going to have problems. Are you sure? Except my husband might kill me.
New Delhi. For a tiny thing like me, it seems monstrous. There are nearly 20 million packed together here. Lured by the bright city lights, they arrive every day from the four corners of India in the hope of making a better life. I too might come here one day, dreaming of finding work, of meeting someone, of falling in love and starting a family. In Delhi, men and women meet, then sometimes fall in love. Beautiful for some and terrible for others.
When Sunita's parents first introduced her to her husband, she found him attractive. His gentleness, his big eyes, which their son has inherited, tugged at her heartstrings straight away. Afterwards, it was an interminable descent into hell.
We came back from honeymoon on the 11th of December. The problems began on the 15th. After 1 month, my in-laws started to insult me, to mistreat me every day. 4 months after we got married, my husband started to beat me. It wasn't just my husband. His whole family humiliated me. And then the blows began to get more frequent. When they were annoyed, they threw me out of the house. I spent whole nights outdoors, even in winter, barefoot and without a blanket. In the morning, they let me back in before the neighbors woke up. My husband became more and more violent. He beat me like a criminal. One day, I started bleeding from my nose, my ears and my mouth. His whole family, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, my sisters-in-law, were there that day. They saw me being beaten, but no one stopped him. No one took me to hospital. It was about 7 in the evening. They locked me in a room. They didn't give me anything to eat for 24 hours. My husband left for work, and I was only let out the following evening.
It took Sunita a year to find the courage to leave her husband. The day when the blows became too violent and she thought she was going to die, she resigned herself to going to a police station and making a complaint. This is the court in Delhi where most of the capital's domestic violence cases are tried.
Good morning.
Today, Sunita is meeting the 2 lawyers who specialize in defending women who are victims of abuse. Her case will be heard in a few weeks' time.
It's very hard to assess the true extent of domestic violence. It's even harder to give percentages because the statistics only relate to documented cases. However, if we want to talk in general terms about this problem in our society, we can reasonably surmise that there is not one Indian household which is not affected by domestic violence today.
Now people are aware. The number of complaints is growing. Thanks to the media, thanks also to government campaigns. For victims, the authorities have made available helplines, posters with information in underground and bus stations and in other places. Women can access the information and make a complaint to the police. You must remember everything you have said, everything you have written in your statement. Otherwise, they will try to trip you up.
I remember everything, every tiny detail. I'll never be able to forget.
According to a recent study, 65% of Indian women will experience domestic violence. It's a national scourge affecting towns as much as rural India. And then there are other people judging you too. This is a society which always deems women to be guilty. For a young woman at home like Sunita, there was no solution other than to go back to her parents. But she and her mother merely cohabit.
Today, young girls don't put up with much. They leave their homes and their husbands. In our day, even if we were beaten, we stayed married. We said, whatever happens, he's still my husband. Today, they speak to each other like pigs. Her home should be her husband's.
You mean she should go back?
That's up to her. But yes, it must be sorted out. She must go back.
Sometimes my mother asks me to go back to my husband and I say no. We argue. There's a lot of tension. I tell her that if she had lived through what I did, she would understand. She always replies that it happens to everyone. It happens everywhere, even if we don't see it. She thinks you have to adapt to the situation for society's sake.
Sunita is back home, but she knows the situation has to be temporary. A married woman living with her parents is not acceptable in India. For the family, it's seen as a disgrace. People in the neighborhood are beginning to talk. A kind of unease settles in the house. Everyone knows what Sunita went through. Her sister Poonam and her brother have witnessed her husband's violence. But what they hope for today, above all, is to keep up appearances.
The judge will decide if she should go back to her husband. He makes the rules. I mean, if the court decides Sunita should live with her husband for a trial period of 3 or 6 months, for example, she might find that he has changed and she can have a good life with him. That would be really good.
As my sister said, it's all in the hands of the law. The court must decide. If her husband admits his wrongdoings before the judge, if he says, I want to live with my wife and my son, I will make them happy. In this case, I don't think there will be any more problems.
Pushed to leave more by society than by her family, Sunita will take refuge once more in her room this evening. She carries a huge burden on her shoulders, the honor of her family. However, she carries this burden courageously, well aware that the silence maintained by women who are victims of domestic violence in India has gone on far too long.
In the past, women put up with everything, but today things are changing. Violence has always been the same as it is now, but women used to keep quiet. What happened in the home stayed buried in the home forever. I will make my son aware that not all women are weak, that if his wife is weak, he mustn't use it against her. I will teach him this.
Park Street, the beating heart of Calcutta. I feel the pulse of this huge city, and it frightens me just to think of it. Park Street wants to shine. Its colonial architecture and beautiful shops want to make us believe that India's third largest city is prospering. When night falls, however, when the shadows withdraw, Calcutta reveals its true face. From its darkest corners, phantoms emerge.
He took me to the car and I got into the back side of the car, and straight after that his friends got in. They were pretty drunk and I felt uncomfortable. He took out a gun and caught me by my cheeks and shoved the gun in my mouth and said that if I moved, he would shoot me. He had full control of me, and that's when the rape started.
Suzette Jordan is 38. She is an Indian woman, unlike others, independent and modern. 1 year ago, some men made her pay dearly for being different. That evening, leaving a chic bar in Park Street, she accepted a lift home. But the man called his friends, and this avenue became her hell.
They were pulling at my breast, they were biting me, he was biting on my lips, he was biting me on my breast like as if he was chewing into a piece of meat. He abused me so filthily, like I was a piece of trash. Was when he was raping me, the person sitting behind him was laughing and cheering him on. And I could hear laughter, and it echoes in my head even till today. More than the fright of being raped, it's the fright of his laugh.
During the following weeks, the whole city seemed to point at this victim, making her out to be guilty. Guilty of being single, of going to a bar in the evening. Calcutta named her Park Street Girl, a girl of loose morals. In Indian society, victims of rape are always responsible for what happens to them. So they hide away. By refusing to do that, by speaking out and naming the perpetrators, Suzette Jordan broke a very strong taboo.
Every rape victim or every victim of any kind of social injustice is always stigmatized. They're stigmatized to such an extent that they start to feel embarrassed for their lives. And that's why we have such a high rise in suicides. Rape victims killing themselves, or rape victims marrying their perpetrators because they're made to believe that this man is the only man that will keep you happy. When I cover my face, I'm letting the rapist know that, I'm ashamed of something you did. I am ashamed. And I'm not going to allow that to happen. It was that moment. In fact, it was so spontaneous. It was in seconds that the next reporter, when she came to me and she says, "Ma'am, will you give me an interview? Would you like your face blurred?" And I said, "No." I said, "You will take my name today."
In revealing her identity, Suzette Jordan gave a face to all the victims of rape in India. In this country, she is the first to have given evidence openly. In answering journalists' questions, speaking to television, she has reached all levels of this highly conservative and highly unjust society. She has forced India to look itself in the face. It's 8 in the morning. Behind her bedroom curtain, Suzette is still asleep. Last night was full of nightmares. The other women in the house are already up. Ria and Jade, Suzette's daughters, are about to go to school. Their grandmother, Gilda, is making sandwiches. There are only women in their household, a cocoon where they feel safe. Ria and Jade have doubtless grown up too fast, but these trials, faced together, have also forged their characters and given them strength.
We were close before this happened, but it has brought us even closer.
In what way?
I don't know, like we really get to like
When you experience things,
see whatever happens.
whether it's bad or good, it brings you together,
Bad or good, that
closer.
brings you closer anyway. So.
And in this case, it was bad.
Every day, mommy, like like every day we think that will end, never really ends. It's very annoying and irritating also. What more to say now?
It's different than the other Indian.
Is your mother very different to other Indian mothers?
Broad-minded.
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 She's broad-minded.
She's like a role model.
My mother is our role model.
We see her.
I am very proud of her.
Really proud of her.
She's unique.
I'm not afraid of all at all. I'm not afraid. I get, before any exam, how you feel, butterflies in your stomach. I get like that.
Today is the day when it will all be dragged up again. Before a court in Calcutta later on, Suzette will have to face the men who shattered her world.
You can avoid this hand,
Are you paying attention to what you're wearing today?
especially my hands. I have a lot of history on my hand.
You'll have to hide it.
Yes. Hide what? Because instead of thinking that I suffer with manic depressions, they'll be thinking I'm a psychopath. Stresses of the past. Sometimes it gets to me. So I stopped that again till last year when I tried once or twice. My eldest daughter actually shouted at me when she kind of pulled out the knife and she's like, shook me, Mama! So, yes. So I promised I won't do it again. So I haven't since last year.
Suzette Jordan moves forward without looking back. No backwards glance over her troubled life, that of a troubled young girl.
It's just
A rebellious adolescent, she got married too young to a man who left her with 2 children and marks all over her body. Later, another man, the love of her life, was crushed on his motorbike one night in Calcutta. And then the unbearable, what she has to face today.
I'm ready. I am. I'll just read my Bible. Psalm 27. Lord, you are my light and my savior. I should not be afraid of anyone. Evil people might attack me. They might try to destroy my body. My enemies might try to attack and destroy me. But even if an army is all around me, I will not be afraid. Even if people attack me in war, I will not be afraid. Why? Because I trust the Lord. The Lord will protect me when I am in danger. He will hide me in his tent. He will take me up to his place of safety. My enemies have surrounded me, but the Lord will help me defeat them. Then I will offer sacrifices in his tent. I will give the sacrifices with heart. जितना भी जल्दी हो सके ना जल्दी चलाइएगा कि वहाँ से कोर्ट जाना होगा ना. Lord, hear my voice. Answer me. Be kind to me. Lord, I want to talk with you. I want to speak to you from my heart. I come
Suzette is afraid.
to speak with you.
She is trembling, but she doesn't waver.
Don't turn away from
The
me.
families of the perpetrators have tried in vain to negotiate a settlement with her to get her to withdraw her accusation. But Suzette isn't interested in
My
money.
God,
She's fighting for justice.
Very strong. I want them to be sentenced to life imprisonment so that they never come out. When they're sentenced, I want them to introspect what they've done. I want them to know what they've done. I want them to realize they know what they've done. I want them to realize what they've done and to know that they'll not be able to get away with it. And that's why I fight so much.
Suzette is not alone in fighting this battle. While she is holed up in the court facing her destiny, outside other women are rallying. Today they have come to wait for the court's verdict on the rape case. A young girl of 15 who died in an attack by 9 men. These demonstrators are denouncing the lack of action by the authorities.
I have retired on 31st May.
I am retired from the police in Calcutta, and I can tell you there is no justice for women in this country.
It is a patriarchal society.
This is a patriarchal society. India is a patriarchal society. Unless men's attitudes change, women will never get justice.
Whenever the poor people are going to
The poor who go to the police are ignored.
because they are poor.
The law is made for the rich,
Only for the rich,
for the powerful.
people. That is our problem. I have felt it. I walked.
I worked for the police for 40 years. I've seen it with my own eyes.
In December last year, the barbaric rape of a student in a bus in New Delhi awoke public consciousness. The shocked nation gave this 23-year-old victim a name, India's daughter. Huge demonstrations throughout the country forced the government to act. In 1 year, the law changed, accusations of rape have tripled, and the media is finally giving these cases coverage. More importantly, today victims no longer have to bow their heads, and rapists now face the death penalty. Indian society has turned an important corner, but there is still a long path to tread. Last year, barely a quarter of the men tried for rape were convicted. In India, justice still takes its time. For Suzette, one sitting is over, but there will be many more. Her lawsuit will last for several months more, perhaps years.
I'm stressed. Don't ask me any questions. I'm feeling like I'm going to faint. Today was really, really bad. What happened? Let's go. Otherwise, we'll say we're following them again. Against all odds, I don't care how many obstacles they're going to put in my way and how embarrassed they're going to make me feel. Because I'm going to continue fighting for my dignity and for the part of me that died that night. We don't have to fear nobody when we're walking, when we're going to work, when our children are going to school, colleges, or whatever. In every walk of life, a woman has to face this. And I think a woman has earned that part, has earned enough to prove that she deserves that amount of respect. And for that, I think somebody needs to stand up. And I'm not afraid of anybody, so if it has to be me, then it's me.
They come from all over the country. For us Hindus, a pilgrimage here is essential in our lifetime. Like them, I will doubtless one day come here to sing the praises of Lord Krishna. We visit the temples dedicated to him, and we are generous. Suddenly the town is full of sadhus, of dreamers, of beggars of all kinds. And then there are these women. You see them everywhere in the streets, and you can recognize them. In Vrindavan, the widows wear white.
I used to have a good life. I was happy. I was a free woman. And then my husband died, and I found myself with no protection. As I didn't have a job, I came here to Vrindavan. My children didn't help me. When you no longer have a husband in this country, you have nothing. And if I did, I wouldn't be here in the street. At home, I didn't get on with my daughter-in-law. She made my life hell, so I escaped.
Now Gulab Bai walks the dirty little streets of Vrindavan. Indian society has always mistrusted widows. In previous centuries, if they had the misfortune of their husbands dying before them, they were thrown onto their husband's burning pyre. Today they are symbols of bad luck. In certain villages they are stripped of their goods and chased away. For poor families, they are useless mouths to feed. It's dinner time, and Gulab Bai heads for one of the ashrams in the city. The City of Widows, as the Indians have named it, has arranged to take in the worst off. Today there are 40 of them, and for most this will be the only meal of the day.
Here we get something to eat every day. Usually there's a queue across the whole yard. They give us food here with love. It's given with a lot of love. I've been to this town twice. The first time was with my husband on a pilgrimage. The second time was alone and to stay. Since the night I arrived, it's been 3 years. 3 years already. To begin with, I found a room, but one day they threw me out, so I live on the streets.
In Vrindavan, there are more than 10,000 widows who come from all over India. Their days pass slowly, begging, finding food. That's all they do. Life on the streets awaits them, and when night envelops the town, Gulab Bai and the others share the same feeling, that of infinite loneliness.
My sons take care of their children. That's why they don't help me, don't give me money. But anyway, I don't remember anything of my former life. It must be buried deep in my heart. If it's my destiny, perhaps my children will come one day and take me back home. And if not, this is where I will die.
The undertakers move along the banks of the Yamuna, the holy river. Last night, a widow died. In Hindu religion, taking your last breath in holy Vrindavan is a chance to put an end to the cycle of reincarnation, to go straight to nirvana. For old women with bad karma like her, it's almost undreamt of.
We'll have to light the fire. She didn't have anyone.
She had no family, no mother, no father, no one. She was alone in Vrindavan.
I've done this for a very long time, for 38 years.
And have you cremated many widows?
Oh yeah, lots. I've cremated as many widows as I have hairs on my head.
Surrounded by indifference, one soul prepares to depart. This morning, only the undertakers have come to see her off on her final journey. Memories file past, those of their former lives. Here in the ashram, they feel protected. Resources are meager, time still passes slowly, but at least someone is looking after them.
Look at this building. We are already short of space. That's why we can't give them all a bed. The problem continues to grow in this country because our population is growing, and that's why we have more and more widows arriving in Vrindavan.
I was married at the age of 9. I don't even remember what happened. After that, I went to live with my husband when I was 16. I stayed there. I lived with him and had children. One day, they threw me out of the house. And that's when I discovered my husband was dead. I'll tell you my whole story. I started to have problems when I was 35, and now I'm 90. What haven't I done in my life? I feel as if I've travelled the whole world over. I've built walls with builders, I've washed clothes with washerwomen, I've cooked, washed up, been a nurse at a doctor's. Sometimes I wonder what I haven't done in my lifetime. I gave birth to 2 children, but they're no longer mine. I'm sad and I suffer. I have more troubles than anyone in the world. I feel so sick, so miserable.
Manu Ghosh has endured many hardships, but she still manages to keep alive a tiny glimmer of hope, a watchful eye over her country, this India which is so hard and so unjust.
In this country, in Calcutta, in Vrindavan, and everywhere else, men have always been valued over women. But today, women are finally finding their place, beginning to make their mark and stand up to men.
Are times changing?
Yes, that's it exactly. Today, girls are getting married, going to live with their in-laws, but they also go to work. In the past, they weren't free to do what they wanted. You understand? Today, girls go out. They do that today. As for me, I've done my bit along the way.
These women give me courage. Their tired eyes have seen what my life might be, and yet here they are. They stand tall, they dance, and they sing. What these old women are trying to tell me, perhaps, is that they still have faith. My heart beats faster. Somewhere in this vast country, a mother, my mother, is about to give birth.
It's a girl, a little girl.
I'm a girl, yes, but that's not why I'm crying. Who doesn't cry the day that they are born? Already, my tears have stopped. I open my eyes. I look at the world. Somewhere inside me, I know. This country is beautiful. It can change. It must change. And I want to believe it will.